What's up, YouTube, and welcome into another installment of Bible Study with an Ex-Pastor. And I think this is like the eighth one now. This is absolutely crazy. Y'all, man, y'all are amazing. Have I said that? Have I said that yet? Y'all are absolutely amazing. I had no idea that people would support this type of thing. And again, it's been highly therapeutic for me, highly informative for me, and then I get to learn so much from you all in the comments, and it's like going through this together. So I do want to say thank you all immensely. I mean, just wow, from the depth of who I am. Thank you. Just having you on this journey with me has been absolutely amazing. Amazing. I love. I am absolutely enthralled by the amount of community and support that we're building, finding, and growing. So, with that being said, before we jump into today's episode, let's go ahead and take care of some house rules. So, listen, if you haven't done so already, like this video. And if you enjoy content like this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that way every time we put out something new, you're one of the first people to see it. And then speaking of perks, benefits, and all that good stuff, yes, we have a Patreon and we have a YouTube membership community. Consider joining one of those. That's a great way to get involved. We have also put out a volunteer announcement. So listen, if you're looking for a way to support, maybe you're somebody who was like, man, I really wanted to give, but that's just not where I am right now. And trust me, I understand. But I really want to be a part of what's going on with this channel. Hey, if that's you, consider volunteering. We do have some very specific roles that are open with some very specific responsibilities. And if they align with you and what you'd want to do, then please holler at us. And those roles will be, we're asking no more than 5 to 10 hours a week of your time. And even that's kind of, that's best case scenario is getting that far, but it's just a little thing to help us. And it's really, to be honest, it's not even just about helping me. I mean, number one, it would be a crucial, huge help to me, but you will notice that the roles that we are kind of, looking for are all community-based roles. And so it's really stuff to just kind of help grow the community. Things like that don't happen on accident. Community doesn't happen on accident. It has to be intentional. And so some people may look and say, hey, man, I think y'all might be moving too fast. Maybe y'all don't need all of that. Well, that's why they're volunteers. I'm volunteering right now. My wife is volunteering in the background. I got some kids volunteering every now and then. It's volunteers, and it's so that as community is growing, we're doing everything we can to be intentional about it, and to actually cultivate it, to nurture it, right? And so we're really excited about that. And one more announcement before we jump in today. Guess what? We got merch. Like, if I would have thought about it, I would have planned to kind of like put it in this video somewhere. But yes, we got merch, and I think YouTube does allow me to do that, so I'll play around with all of that stuff. But yes, we have merch. We have merch, and look, check it out. It's really nice. And I'm nowhere near done. Oh my goodness, we have a shirt that says "Think Responsibly" with a light bulb on it. It's really dope. And you can get that on a t-shirt. You can get it on a pullover. You can, I haven't put it on hats yet. You can get it on a mug, and oh my goodness, it looks amazing on a mug. And then we have this other one, Keep Rising, which is something that I sometimes close my videos out with. Actually, in the corporate world, that's my closing signature. On my email. It's my wife's too. I actually stole it from her. But it's Keep Rising, but it's the iconic walk of evolution type of thing, and with Keep Rising under it. So anyway, you take a look at it and you tell me what you think. Again, I'd love to hear your comments on that. All right, so let's jump into Bible Study with an Ex-Pastor. This is episode, I'm not going to say the number because I feel like I'm going to be wrong, but we've done a lot of them. All right. And today we're going to be picking up with Genesis chapter 19. I hope you brought your Bibles. And if you didn't, hey, it's 2024, the internet. Oh, what the freak? It's right there. It's on the screen. It's on the screen. All right. So, yeah, we're like a mega church right now. It's on the screen. You don't even got to bring your Bibles. Look at there. We're so mega churching with it that we don't even need the ATM machines because we can just give directly online. We've done the dang thing. Okay. obviously I'm being a little tongue in cheek here, but I kind of think that's what you come for. All right, so let's look at this. Genesis chapter 19, verse 1. I'm going to try to stay in front of this mic. I have to get used to this. I have to get used to this. Even when I was a pastor, I preferred having the lapel mics, and I didn't like this mic because it made people talk like this a lot, and I didn't want to do that. But I did enjoy lapels because I do so much with my hands and I move around. Obviously, I'm quite an animated character, so but I'll try to stay here with the mic. Okay. All right, so now Genesis chapter 19, verse 1. Now the two angels came to Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he stood up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. All right, just point reference real quick. This is important to me for a question I had earlier when I was thinking through this story, and that is Lot is at the gate of Sodom. That's just a reference point for me. Okay. And he said, now behold, my lords, please turn aside into your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet, and then you may rise early and go on your way. They said, no, but we shall spend the night in the public square. Yet he strongly urged them, so they turned aside to him and entered his house, and he prepared a feast for them and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. All right, so we'll stop there for a moment. That's 3 verses in. I already have some thoughts. We're just 3 verses in, and I already have thoughts. Okay. So again, one of the things that I have been stressing throughout of this. Okay, and for those of you who are new to this is not a deep theological dive. This is not what we're doing. So let me kind of give you that. What we're doing here is we're going to walk through this just looking at the text with human eyes, right? That's good. Human eyes, humanistic eyes, because we actually do have human eyes. That's how that works. So we're just going to read through the text with human eyes. I'm exploring it, kind of revisiting what I would have thought about this when I was a child, when I was younger, and also what I thought about it as I was pastoring, and then closer to when I was on the fringes of the faith, and then now kind of what I think about some of these things now. And most for the most part, I am applying my limited understanding of history and sociology, and I am being modest there, I know, but applying my understanding of sociological aspects along the way, while using my over 2 decades of experience in ministry as somewhat of a backdrop to bring some color to the question and to bring some nuance to a lot of the nuances here, right? And so one of the things that I've stressed in this is that so far in the text, other than Christian belief, and of course, all Christians don't believe the same thing. They are not a monolithic group, but outside of Christian, in many Christian circles, God is believed to be omnipresent and omniscient, all knowing, all present, and all powerful. And one of the things I've highlighted that so far, when you're reading Genesis without those presuppositions, you don't get that kind of God. So far, this God is not claimed to be all-knowing, and as a matter of fact, the evidence here has definitely demonstrated that this God is not all-knowing. A God who is all-knowing doesn't not know that the people he creates are going to fuck up. That's just not how that works. Which is also another good place. This idea that God is perfect, this doesn't show up in Genesis as well. This God is not perfect, and again, in order to believe in a perfect creator, you first have to have evidence of perfect creation. That's the way that works. A handyman is judged by his work, right? So you don't get to create something and then it's imperfect, and yet you claim to be perfect. You're like, what? Whoa. Okay, so and you see that here. That this God, again, this is a great example of a great point in Scripture where you see that this God is not omnipresent and that this God is not omniscient. In this case, it's a big thing to be overlooked, because here's the thing: an omnipresent, and potent, and omniscient being would have no need of anybody else. Like literally, why would a being that is everywhere at all times need angels to send to places if he is everywhere at all time? See, you know, there are a lot of concepts in Christianity that I once accepted without ever wrestling with, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we get to Jacob's story. But there was a lot of concepts that I was accepting that I wasn't actually wrestling with. So we just say these things: omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. But it's like, wait a minute. Well, omnipresent means everywhere, all the time. Why are angels necessary then? You know, that's this is difficult. This is difficult. And then, you know, or then even at this moment we get not even why are angels necessary. How does anything else fit here? If you're everywhere all the time, you're all present, you're all consuming at that moment. You'd consume all of space. All of space and time at that moment. So at that moment, you'd be so big that you'd be irrelevant. And unfortunately, that is something that kind of happened for me in my theological deconstruction. Is that the more the truer I tried to make God, the closer I tried to align God with the truth, the more irrelevant God became. Because in order to align God with truth, which you'll see a lot of people trying to do this with, you know, people like Jordan Peterson. But it's actually a very popular argument. People like Deepak Chopra, you know, I hope I'm saying his name right. But, you know, very popular idea that God lives outside of the natural. Well, to me, that becomes immediately a mute point once you have a God that lives outside of the natural world. And I didn't realize this back then, but the more and more I started wrestling with what these words actually mean, I'm like, oh, no. Okay. If God is outside of the natural world, then that God cannot interact with the natural world, which then makes all of Genesis a lie, right? Because there can be no interaction. If this God is completely unnatural, then this God cannot interact with the natural world. Okay, so anyway, so the fact that there's angels here and that is this one of the first times we see the angels in the text actually getting involved? Like, we know there's a cherubim mentioned in like chapter 3, but I don't think we've seen any more angels in action since then. We may have seen one or two, but this one was interesting. You got the two angels coming down. They're coming down to not just do the work, but they're coming down to check on the work. So they're coming down to check on what God was already doing. And so this is already a very different scenario than what we got when we were going through Genesis chapter 5 with the Tower of Babel, where the Tower of Babel, God himself comes down to check out what's going on, and he's unhappy, and God himself, you know, knocks that thing down. But in this case, maybe because it's not one of God's main characters, it's Lot. It's like a side character, and God is like, man, fuck Lot. I'm not handling with him. I've been dealing with Abraham. Abraham is the one with all the money. That's the one I'll talk to. So he sends the henchman down to go talk to Lot. Okay, so I know that was a lot to pull out of those three verses, but I did want to just kind of highlight that. And then also, these angels, just like God, can be bargained with. You know, so because they're like, nah, we got orders, man. We coming down here. We're gonna be in the public square. And then he's like, but nah, y'all come in my house. I'm a cook. And they were like, okay, we can eat. We can eat. You know. And so they come in the house and then they eat. Okay, now this is where things take a turn. Let's continue. Before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, surrounded the house, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. And they called to Lot and said to him, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us that we may have relations with them. Yeah. Now, I definitely remember reading this as a kid thinking like, what the fuck is happening here? Why is this happening? And it almost, you know, again, I've said this throughout this book so far. There's a lot of things that happen where you're like, okay, I feel like I was not given enough background information before we just threw this cat in the bag. Okay, like what is, and that's what it's like. It's like being in somebody's house, and then all of a sudden, just in the middle of a conversation, they just take a cat and start putting the cat in the bag. You're like, hold on, whoa. I think I've missed the precursor here. I don't know what's getting ready to happen because I don't even know how we got to this point. I am completely like, whoa, what, whoa. This is where I was. Cause I'm like, okay, These are angels. The angels come down, and they were going to chill in the public square, which that part made no sense to me either. But again, it's also because I had the presuppositions that they're working for an all-knowing God. So I'm like, what are they actually chilling in the park for? It doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, if you already know these people are messed up, then you just come down here and do what you need to do. You know what I'm saying? But it's like you scoping the place out as if you didn't know, or like, because you're not there to warn them. The only person you're there to warn is Lot. So I'm just like, why would you just be standing in the middle of the public square all night, and then just, okay, then we get morning, we're just gonna kill everybody? That just seems like an incredible waste of time. You could have been at Denny's, IHOP. Anyway, okay, so now, and all these men, they come out and they say, hey, you got some angels in there. We'd really like to fuck them. That's how this party is going down. Let's fuck the angels. That might be a title. Fucking angels. I don't know. We'll think about that. I'll start thinking about a thumbnail. Okay, so yeah, and the thing is, the detail that they give here is weird. They wanted us to know that it was both the young men and the old men. Everybody wanted angel booty. Okay. No, I've never seen an angel, so I don't know if it are angels like aphrodisiacs or something. You see them and you just like, oh, I got to give me some of that. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they're just so freaking gorgeous with all those eyes over their body. Well, the Bible isn't very consistent with the description of its angels, though. So let's continue. All right, so, and they called to Lot and said to him, where are, no, I said that part, but Lot went out to them at the doorway and shut the door behind him. I know he did. He was terrified and said, please, my brothers, do not act wickedly. Now look, I have two daughters who have not had relations with any man. Please let me bring them out to you and do to them whatever you like. Only do not do anything to these men, because they've come under the shelter of my roof, which I would also like to point out is where your fucking daughters live as well. This logic is weird to me. This dude says, I'm sorry, I did not mean to raise my voice, but this logic is weird to me. This dude says, hey, listen, these men have come out under the safety of my house. I can't let you do nothing to them, which I understand immediately. Like, oh, bro, that's kind of honorable. You like, no, but if it's because you said the first part, that now removes all of the honor from this, because you're saying, no, don't do anything to them because they're in my house. But then you say, but I also have these daughters who also live in my house, but you can do whatever the fuck you want to do with them. What is happening here? Like, why did we encourage children to read this book, and why do we encourage people to get their morals from this? And then why are we shocked when we see some of the most sexually inconsiderate, oppressive, and deviant behavior, in churches? We're creating a lot of these problems, because this is highly problematic, especially if you're letting young children read things like this, and you're not having the conversation with them to allow them to explore what exactly is right and what exactly is wrong. If you're giving this to children, or anybody with a childlike mind, because a lot of adults are, yeah, yikes. But you're giving this to people, and you're giving it to them with the presupposition that this book is the representation of what is right, and that the character God is a shining example of what is right and is always right, and the characters that work with that God are also right and shining examples of right. Then you are absolutely destroying and corroding the morality of a person's mind, which is something that I saw firsthand. Again, forgive me for ranting a little bit, but I definitely saw this firsthand in the church. As far as the majority, not even the majority, 100% of the churches that I went through, that I was a part of, those people wouldn't know what was morally right or wrong from an apple or an orange, because it could be easily swayed by, well, I think God may want this to happen. And so, I had to say that, because this is not just bad, this is disgusting at this moment. This is disgusting. Lot just offers his daughters up to be raped to protect strangers. You understand? Like that's just wild. That's wild to me. Okay, like that's so. Listen, for the Christians, like when you jump in here, like please understand, this is who you're defending. Like, and it's not even a who. If the figment of your imagination, if this is what you attach your imagination to, I do not trust you, and I say that with experience. I've known some wonderful people in the church world. I mean, just oh my goodness, they were just wonderful people until that voice in them in their head told them they didn't have to be. Okay, and that switch can switch for any reason, and so I definitely prefer, for those reasons, people who attach their life choices to theology such as this. I prefer, just me, and I'm not telling anybody else that they have to be that way, but I prefer not to deal with you too much because I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I don't trust anybody who can read a situation where a man is offering to give his daughters over to be raped, and you can think that that is good or excusable or tolerable in any situation. I have daughters. I don't trust you. Yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, so I'm sorry, that pissed me off a little bit. And I read it before. I didn't think I was going to get that mad. But they said, get out the way. They also said this one came in as a foreigner, and already he acting like a judge. He already telling us what to do. Um, yeah. Now we'll treat you worse than them. So they pressed hard against Lot and moved forward to break the door. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And then they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness from small to great, so that they became weary of trying to find the doorway. Now, mind you, I don't know if you remember this part of the story, and maybe this is a little bit of spoiler alert, but the angels are here to destroy these people, by the way. So I'm not understanding why they just didn't destroy these people at this moment. You see, like it's really like they're delaying it. Like they have to wait to a specific time to make this destruction happen. Which in that case, then you kind of know that okay, so it's not really the angels who are destroying anything, and and you get that little clue from the writers themselves here. But also like that the angels don't act when Lot offers his daughters. The angels are silent there. When Lot says, "Yeah, I'll just give y'all my daughters," the angels like, "That sound cool with me." Yeah, y'all. Yeah, why don't y'all just get his daughters? Why y'all even after us? Like what the hell? Um, but then when they like, nah, but you know, dang, Lot, yeah, Lot, we're gonna beat your ass worse than we're gonna beat theirs, or well, beat is still relevant there, I think. But we're gonna do to you worse than what we're gonna do to them, and then that's when they say, "Oh, they done gone too far." Like what? This is weird. This is weird. Hey, Christians, you're weird, and I say that with all understanding because as was I. I was one of you, sort of, kind of, not really. Okay, so but the men reached out their hands. Okay, yeah, saw that. Then they struck. Yep, saw that. So let's go to verse 12. Um, then the two men said to Lot, "Whom else do you have here? A son-in-law and your sons and daughters, and whomever you have in the city, bring them out of the place." Okay, so let's look at that. Whom else do you have here? A son-in-law, that's one person. Your sons, maybe that's at least two. So we're up to three people. And your daughters, which we I think he did say two of those. So we're up to five people. And then the angel saying you might have some people in the city too, which means God didn't give them a full rundown on how many people Lot had in his caravan. So that's weird. Again, God is not giving great information, but as Christians, we should be used to that. Former Christians, yeah. Um, and so this is odd, yeah, because the prayer that Abram had was that if you could find five righteous, won't you spare the city? And remember, I mentioned that last week, and I was like, hold on, if Lot is there, he's not there by his damn self. He's there with his wife. He's there with, oh, and he mentioned his wife. Yeah, so that's at least six right there. And then whomever has the city, as long as there are four other people, that's at least 10. So even if it was just 10, it seemed like that qualification had already been met, and God was just like, nah, we're going to pretend like it hasn't. Or we're going to go get those five, and we'll just get them out, and we'll destroy everybody else, which actually then does show that God actually, that God, the characterization, that God as a character in the book of Genesis actually dealt dishonestly with Abraham. Because instead of deciding to spare the city, if there were this many righteous people in the city, he just decided to let those righteous people leave the city and spare the city. And that was not the deal that he made with Abraham. So let's continue. Let's continue. Yoink. So the two men said to Lot, who else? Okay, got to that part. For they were about to destroy this place because the outcry has become so great before the Lord that the Lord has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and spoke to his son-in-law, who were to marry his daughters, and said, "Up, get out of this place, for the Lord is destroying the city." But he appeared to his sons-in-law to be joking. When morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Up, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of this city." So he's like, okay, everybody got to get out. But he hesitated, so the men grasped his hand and the hand of his wife and the hands of his two daughters, because the compassion of the Lord was upon him. Oh, look at there's compassion. It showed up. We got compassion. Okay, of the Lord was upon him, and they brought him out and put him outside the city. When they had brought them outside, one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you, and do not stay anywhere in the surrounding areas. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "Oh, no, my lords. Now, behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you've magnified your compassion, which you have shown me by saving my life. But I cannot escape to the mountains, for the disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Now, behold, this town is near enough to flee to, and it is small. Please let me escape there. Is it not small that my life may be saved?" Okay, let's power through a little bit more of this. And he said to him, "Behold, I grant you this request also, not to overthrow the town of which you have spoken. Hurry, escape there, for I cannot do anything until you arrive there." Therefore, the town was named Zoar. Okay, we'll stop right there. A lot going on here, and a lot's not going on here at the same time. What's happening here is is a whole bunch of back-to-back conversations. So the angels tell Lot, okay, we're here to destroy everything. You need to go ahead and let everybody know to get their shit and get the fuck out. And so Lot starts telling people, hey, they're going to destroy everything. And everybody think Lot is just joking, which I think that probably has something to do with his tone and delivery. Because if this is at a time where everybody believes in angels and shit, then, the guy said, hey, two angels are here and they about to burn some shit down. This seems like something that you'd be used to happening. Just like a tornado. It's like, oh, damn, there go that bell again. We got to go. So nobody goes, which I guess can be somewhat realistic, because humans, we are like that many times. Circumstances of life does not present everybody the same options to be able to move. So maybe, other people say, "Lot, we ain't got it like you. So, our stuff ain't insured, so we got to stay here and try to protect it from that." I don't know. But this was odd. This whole story is odd to me for a lot of reasons when trying to view it as a story, of a God sending his goons down to destroy two cities, um, and without a lot of backdrop to the story, especially when you get there. And, Lot has been living there fine his whole life, not his whole life, but he's been living there fine since he's been there. Nobody's tried to rape him that we've seen. But then all of a sudden, two angels show up, and people are like, "Oh, this new booty, so let us try to get them." And so I'm like, well, if this is what they do to new booty, then wouldn't this have happened a lot too? Like, because he would have been new booty at one point. Okay, I'm just trying to think it through here. Like there's a lot of these nuances be nuancing is what I'm saying. So yeah, and the angels bring him out of the city, but they can't get him far away to not be impacted by the destruction. And that seems odd. But they have such an ability to be precise, where he's like, "No, I don't want to go to the mountains. I think that's going to be bad," which means like, "Hey, well, y'all telling me to go is y'all gonna be fucked up." So these people don't even know where to tell them to go, and so he says, "I'll just go to this little small city instead." And they're like, "All right, we'll make sure not to do that." So you have the ability to be precise, but you did not have the ability to get me precisely to safety. I'm not quite understanding here. And those are things that I've watched other people just look over if it wasn't there, and I'm like, no, that obviously doesn't make real sense, or at least it doesn't make these people very competent. And mind you, the competence is superimposed. It is presupposed. There is no reason to believe that these characters have any type of competence. The author has not gone through any great detail to ascribe competence to these characters. The author has just given these characters names or descriptions that we have these presuppositional attachments to. So this is an angel of the Lord. This angel of the Lord must be really close to God, must be really like God. And even that's baked in with so many presuppositions, because your presuppositions is, and God must be good, and God must be great, and God must be righteous, and all of these things. And it's like, but no, if you ever actually just read the book like a person reading a book, those wouldn't be presuppositions you would come to, because you would have the ability to judge the character for yourself, whether this character is good or bad, which is how we read. When we read things, it is the reader who determines whether a character is good or bad, not the author, nor the character, because the character doesn't exist. The character's not real. So, for example, and I'm gonna hit this, and then I'm quitting and going. I am a Game of Thrones fan, right? I even enjoyed season 8. I laughed at a lot of parts in it, but it's fiction. I'm not one of those people who expect fiction to be perfect. I don't know what the fuck that is, So when people are mad, I'm like, well, somebody gonna be mad about something anyway. So, but anyway, yeah. So I'm also a fan of House of the Dragon, and House of the Dragon had a character in it who is not a great guy to a lot of people. His name is Daemon Targaryen, and the showrunner really wanted to make sure that people understood that Daemon was the bad guy, and that's not how it came off, And the showrunner was very upset about that, and I found that very interesting, because I'm like, you don't fucking get fiction. Then you don't get to choose who the people, who fans choose to support. Yes, the Joker is written as a villain, but there are people who the Joker is their favorite part of Batman, right? Because that's how fiction works. That's how art works. It is literally in the eye of the beholder. So that's probably one of the biggest dangers of religion is, I venture to say that 99% of people whoever became Christian after already believing that, number one, there was a God, and that, number two, this God was a good God and was the God depicted in this book. That is an entire presupposition. That is something that is an idea that you've now taken on before you've actually read the book. Like, you don't know the story. But in this context, it's hard not to know the story because it's infused in so much of our media. And I'm not saying that in a way like the media has a conspiracy. I'm really not that, because I have a sociological understanding of the world. I rarely see conspiracies the way that other people do, and most times it's just us. It's we really want to believe that. Okay, I'm going to step in it. It is what it is. A lot of times we want to believe that there's this small group of people that's controlling everybody else, and I'm like, well, the thing is, if that is true, and I'm not saying it couldn't be, I'm saying if that is true, then the solution still remains the same. You have to do something different. I mean, that's the end of the day, because any system that is in place is in place. If any system that is stable and in place is stable and in place because there are enough people participating with it and cooperating with it. So, sometimes I even talk. I have a few friends who are like, "Oh yeah, I want a simple life, and I hate that capitalism has made life so complicated, and we should all just live in the trees and stuff like that." And I'm like, that's fine. I say, here's something that you didn't mention in all of that. And he's like, what? And I was like, nobody's stopping you from doing that. Nobody forced you to buy that iPhone. Nobody forced you to buy the latest video game. So like, when you do that, you're kind of being dishonest, because, this still is, forget politics, forget economics. You're a free autonomous agent. If you want to go live in the woods, you can do that. But the truth of the matter is, some people do. That is the proof of it, is that the people who really want to do that, that's what they do. And they have, just extraordinarily amazing lives. But I think a lot of times, or not even I know for a fact that a lot of times we sometimes engage in these conversations dishonestly. Okay, I trailed a little bit. So let's get back to the story. All right, but the big point of this was just that this was weird to me. This was definitely weird. I don't like the bargaining and stuff. But I do have. I know by the time I was closer to the fringes, again trying to get a more realistic understanding of what this story could have possibly been saying, and I do plan on taking a lot of those thoughts and turning them into a novel. So I do plan on like renovelizing. I don't know if that's a word, but I plan on building stories off of my fringe view of some of the Bible stories. I don't know if I'm going to include them in my Memphis universe, which is that's this. It's the book that I wrote, my novel. Yeah, it's a big one. It's a big one. But I don't know if I'm going to include those stories in that. But I do want to include write some stories because I think this one of the places I got to on my fringe, was that the character God was not an actual deity or divinity, right, or a divine being. So this is where I was on the fringe at one point, is that the character of God represented a more established um, and a more ancient kingdom that was still established, um, which made sense to me. That okay, so that's what this covenant is, because that's kind of how empires are built. So it kind of sounds like this is, or at least this is how I was doing it, is that this is the early colonization of an empire. They're first introduced to this other empire through Melchizedek. Melchizedek meets Abram, kind of likes the cut of his jib, or maybe not so much because then he makes him cut his jib after that. But Melchizedek became a central figure for this for me. He's the one that's kind of out doing the work, and he scouts Abram and he says, you know what, I kind of like you and your people. I can introduce you into our ways, and this will help your people grow. This will help you advance. I'll introduce you to some new things. And so I kind of figured like that's what's going on, right? And so and then that is this big empire, and then you have a bunch of these independent communities that are not a part of the empire, but that the empire chooses some of them if they'll accept the covenant, which is basically just the way that they live. And they say if you do these things, then you will be able to benefit from uh, resources from the empire, which again, is just kind of how empires work. And so in that case, when getting the stories like this one with Lot and the two angels, in that case, the two angels, in my mind, on the fringes, were not angels at all, but these would have been, military messengers, who had come to the town and was warning Lot that like, hey, we're here on a military campaign, and while we haven't quite let it be known yet, this place has come under judgment. You know what I'm saying? And Abram was there when we made the decision, and he told us to come let you know that it's about to go down. So we're gonna have to, y'all need to get out because the rest of the army will be here. We just got here earlier to get you the message. The rest of the army will be here about the morning, so you might want to get your stuff and get out because once they get here, they cutting off heads, man. I ain't talking about the heads y'all were cutting. I'm talking about like it's game over, man. Game over. So I kind of imagine it like that. And fringe. And really like almost every story in the Bible that I was at a point where I can just kind of put it like that. Yeah, it's just all some other stuff. And of course, by that time, what was clear is that I no longer believed in God. I was trying to find a people reason. And then of course, the biggest people reason of all was just that, oh yeah, it's mythology, it's fiction, which then gave me the liberty to just to look at it in all the ways then, and so now I just have fun with it in that aspect. But the thing is, there actually could have been some historicity to this. I know there was some things going on with the Dead Sea around 1900 BCE. So I know there was a great earthquake, which could have been responsible for flinging some tar and stuff like this. So also with stories of mythological significance, there is typically some type of root in some type of true event, especially when it's stuff like this. I'm not saying it is, I'm not saying it isn't, but there is some consensus there that something may have happened here. But I will be honest and say it's a little difficult when you're dealing with biblical events, because much of the much of biblical academia has been mired in pseudo intelligence, and not just, not just pseudo intelligence out of the goodness of your heart, but also just really dealing in bad faith. So there are a lot of things that have been kind of set and said, and to be established as true, that were never established as true. And so it kind of makes it difficult, especially when dealing with place names in the Old Testament, because there are places like, okay, well, this place is this, Sodom and Gomorrah. Of course they're real because there's still a Sodom and Gomorrah now. And it's like, well, that's not exactly how that went. Some of these places have been renamed after the places in the Bible because of that presupposition. And this has happened, many times. Like there are several different place names that have been moved several times. So there's so much intellectual dishonesty there that it is sometimes difficult to actually get to a semblance of truth. And which, again, for a person who's no longer a Christian, that was like a major thing for me, was realizing like, oh, God actually has no ability to keep his people united in the truth. And this is actually very, very confusing. And the fact that that nobody can all read it and come to the same conclusion means this is not clear, which is something that you actually do in market research. You give the people the description of the product, and then you ask them, what is the product? And if they can't tell you what the product is, or you give them a description of the brand and you say, what is the brand? And if they can't tell you what the brand is, then the messaging is unclear. And in this case, come on now, the messaging of the Bible is simply unclear. All right, okay, so that got deep. Let's go. Zoar, verse 23. The sun had risen over the earth, and Lot came to Zoar. Then the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of heaven. Ooh. And he overthrew those cities and all the... Now, see, this is interesting. And because the angel said, we can't do anything until you get the Zoar. And then it's not the angels who do anything. It's the Lord rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah. It's like, what? But I also think people have to remember that this book ever becoming something that is publicly read was not something that was in the plan. All right. When this happened, this was something that people were very much against. Somebody lost their life over making a publicly readable version. People lost their lives over stuff like this. So I think we often forget that this was never really meant to be read commonly, and when I say meant to, I'm not even talking about from original intent. I'm talking about from the intent of the canonizers, the people who decided to put this together, or pull all of these books together and determine that these books were authoritative. When they made those determinations, there was no inclination that other people would actually be reading them and saying, well, what the fuck is this? That wasn't there, and so even with the writing of the book, because of it, or not the writing, yeah, the way that it's written, because of it, because of the way that it became public, because that was not intentional, because that wasn't an intentional sociological work, no one sat down and said, okay, maybe we should create a reader's version of this, so it's just weird to me. So he overthrew those cities, but Lot's wife from behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. She like literally, God does nothing to Lot for offering his daughters up to be raped, but for his wife just turning around, just looking back, maybe out of concern, maybe out of fear, maybe out of panic, maybe out of anxiety, whatever it is, just out of turning around. She absolutely does absolutely nothing wrong. Unless you're a Christian. If you're a Christian, you believe she did something wrong because she disobeyed the angel. Which, listen to those words, disobeyed, right? But yeah, so she does nothing wrong, and she gets, as some people say, unalived. Like, what in the world here? This is horrible. This doesn't make you. This is not a loving God. Like I said, no. If this is if this dude exists, we should be assembling the Avengers. You know, like that's part of the reason I've lost weight and got in shape. I gotta fight this guy. I gotta fight this guy. I gotta take him down. I am Iron Man. Yeah. All right. Actually, I did kind of like Thanos though. All right. So, which actually I think Thanos is a better guy than God is any day of the week. That's a debate I'll participate in. Now Abram got up early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. Do you see how like dismissive we are of Lot's wife's life? Like, just move the fuck on. And he looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the surrounding area. And behold, he saw the smoke of the land ascended like the smoke of a furnace. So it came about when God destroyed the cities of the surrounding area that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the destruction, whom he overthrew the cities in which Lot had lived. I hate the way this is worded. Let's get to some juicy stuff. So now Lot went up from Zoar with his two daughters and stayed in the mountains because he was afraid to stay in Zoar, and he stayed in a cave, he and his two daughters. Then the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is not a man on earth to have relations with us according to the custom of all the earth." This threw me too, because I'm like, where all the people went. Definitely as a child, I was like, but wait a minute, God didn't destroy everybody. He just destroyed the people that was in Sodom and Gomorrah. Obviously, Abraham and his crew is still kicking it. So I don't understand why you couldn't just hang. Okay, so like everybody been doing that anyway. Why can't you just go out and pick you some people from Abraham's flock? Because he got Eleazar is over there. You remember he's in Abraham's house. I'm sure he's a good looking man. But they said there's not a man for us, and their father's old. So come, let's make our father drink wine, and let's sleep with him so that we may keep our family alive through our father. And so then the Bible is going to give us the details here. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and she slept with her father. He didn't know when she laid down or when she got up. Now that's just really weird to be written that way, right? And on the following day, the firstborn said to the younger, "Look, I slept last night with my father. Let's make him drink wine tonight too. Then you go in and sleep with him so that we may keep our family alive through our father." So they had their father drink wine that night too. And the younger got up and slept with him, and he did not know when she lay down or got up. So they got him really, really drunk, which this is common with the patriarchs. They love to drink, which is like why Christians got such a problem with drinking. I don't understand. And again, Christians are not a monolith. Not all Christians have a problem with drinking. I found this to be true. But the way this story is written is very interesting, right? Because it's the opening here that's something that I pay attention to that I didn't pay attention to when I was younger, and that's they were staying in the mountains because he was afraid to stay in Zoar, which they don't explain that. And then he's staying in a cave, and so this seems like this may be something in the story that's a little closer to home for the writers, because they're obviously trying to explain something here, and I think that explanation, and I say obviously, and that's probably not the best way to say that, but it seems to me that they're trying to explain a branch of their family tree at this time that were living in caves for a time, which we do. And I'm not talking about prehistoric cavemen or anything like that. But no, we do know that there are several instances, and I think this still happens today in certain places. But there are several instances where different people groups have shifted to move and live in cavernous places under certain conditions and things of that nature. So this could be somewhat of an explanation for that, and also by saying because this part is a little more, this branch of our tribe of our family history is a little more isolated than the other branches, then this branch is participating in incestuous type of relationship. So to me, seeing it wrapped and seeing verse 30 being the kind of opening bookend for that story does kind of seem that okay, that might be the reason or the rationale of this story comes from. And so that's somewhat of an academic take, but then of course by the end, the way this is written is also written in a way to deprive Lot of any involvement with the decision making of how this process goes. So it's kind of like to make his hands look clean. So just moving from a more sociological view, we're going to deal with psychological. So we'll deal with the psychology of the people involved. In this case, Lot's daughters, Lot himself, and the people who would have known this story to tell it if these people were real. And in that case, then we're looking at it like we'd be looking at it dealing with just everyday people's psychology. And it's, why did you tell me the story that way? Why did you go through the details of telling me how this happened if you weren't trying to find a way to excuse Lot's involvement with this situation? So this seems like one of those stories that's concocted after the fact. All right. So, I've gotten my daughters pregnant. I need to find a way to tell this story in a way that doesn't make me look like the bad guy. So, I was drunk. They did this, and now, so, all right. And so both the daughters conceived by their father. The firstborn gave birth to a son. And again, you see here that somewhat of a justification of existence, kind of like what I was sharing with the way this opened up, and now you're seeing it closed out. That this person that is born is the father of the Moabites, and this other person who was born is the father of the sons of Ammon, or the Ammonites. And so this is trying to justify in a way, give a social justification for the existence of other social groups that are somewhat related, but not fully related. So in this case, these people groups, according to the character archetype that we're using here, are like our cousins, or our nephews, because that's Lot's relationship to Abraham. So the primary people group are obviously the people who are directly correlated to Abraham. I got to stop saying obviously, but are the people who are directly correlated to Abraham. And then it seems like the authors are also trying to kind of give their type of justification or rationale for how these other groups came into existence, and some of the reasons they're different. And in this case, they're trying to say the Moabites and the Ammonites are a little different because they basically spring from incest. That seems to be what this story is trying to say. All right, let's see if we can get another chapter in before we close up. Abraham's treachery. This one is going to feel a little familiar. It's like deja vu. Like, I remember the first time reading through this one as a child, I was like, wait a minute, didn't I already read this story? You'll find out. So, verse 1, now Abraham journeyed from there toward the land of the Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur. Then he lived for a time in Gerar, doesn't matter. And Abraham said of his wife Sarah, she is my sister. So Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent men and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream of the night and said to him, behold, you are a dead man because of the woman you have taken, for she is married. Now Abimelech had not come near her, and he said, Lord, will you kill a nation even though blameless? Did he himself not say to me, she is my sister? And she herself said, he is my brother. I, in the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hands, I have done this. Then God said to him in the dream, yes, I know that in the integrity of your heart you have done this, and I also kept you from sinning against me. Therefore, I did not let you touch her. Now then, return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, know that you will certainly die, you and all who are yours. This God is a jerk. This God is an absolute jackass. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, look at the way this happens. Okay, Abraham's pulling this trick again, which he's pulled. We've seen him pull this trick before, and you would think that Abraham would have learned his lesson after pulling the trick the first time, but he doesn't learn his lesson because, at least according to the story, he's rewarded for running that game. So he comes across Abimelech and says, hey, we're going to run that game again. And so they run that game, but this time, God's active voice is involved. And God's active voice gets involved in a dream to Abimelech. And in a dream, God threatens to kill Abimelech. He says, what you've done is wrong. Now, this is the second time that we've seen Abraham run this particular gambit. And you're telling me that God can speak to the pagan king in a dream and let him know that this is wrong. But God cannot speak to the one whom he has a covenant with to let him know that this is wrong. And in this case, so this actually excuses Abraham for the second time, or at least the second time, from bad behavior. This gives this idea that Abraham can literally do bad things and God will punish those people that he does those bad things to. That's definitely how I read that as a child, you know. And then Abimelech says, "Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute, bro. He sounds just like me. Like I didn't know, I ain't done nothing wrong. This dude told me." And he's like, so, and Abimelech is like, he says, he's like, you gonna kill a nation even though blameless? He says, didn't this dude tell me himself that this was his sister? So you know, like I've been operating out of the integrity of my heart, and you know that my hands are clean. And God says, yes, I know that your hands are clean, and yes, I know that you were operating out of integrity of your heart, and I was still gonna kill your ass because I'm a fucked up individual. And I mean, like, that's not me stretching the truth. That's what's there. I don't think we can use the word truth in this at all, though, right? But that's what's written. I'm not stretching what's written. That's the characterization of God in this story. He is a jackass that is threatening to kill a group of literally, admittedly, God admits that these people are blameless in this situation and is still going to kill them because of something that Abraham does. That's just wild to me. So, and God says, actually, I'm the one that kept you from touching them. It's like, what? What? You could have kept these people from even being here, bruh. Like, how about you keep your people where you want your people to be and stop bringing your little dusty diseases, okay? I feel like that's going to get taken out of context, but y'all got to go back and watch the other one. There was too many peoples in there. You got to be careful when you say you people. And so, you know, I'm like, oh, snap. I might have just offended somebody. Okay. So now then, return the man's wife, for he is a prophet. When did he become a prophet? What the fuck? Okay. So, and he will pray for you and you will live. I was living just fine before he came. But if you do not return her, you will certainly die, you and all yours. Listen, this wouldn't be the first time God told somebody they were going to die and they didn't. So Abimelech got up early in the morning and called all his servants and told all these things in their presence, and the people were greatly frightened. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us, and how have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You've done to me things that ought not to be done." And Abimelech said to Abram, "What have you encountered that you have done this thing?" Abraham said, "Because I thought, surely there is no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife." This is literally the same line he ran last time, and God is letting him get away with it. Because she actually is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. She became my wife. And it came about when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said to her, "This is the kindness that you will show to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother." Abimelech then took sheep and oxen and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham and returned his wife Sarah to him. Behold, Abimelech said, "Behold, my land is before you. Settle where you please." To Sarah he said, "Look, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is your vindication before all who are with you, and before everyone, you are cleared." Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his female slaves, so that they gave birth to children. For the Lord had completely closed all the wombs of the household of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. Okay, so tell me how this shit makes any sense. All right. The female slaves, okay, I'm a little pissed off about that already. Okay. But you have this situation where Abraham is running this scheme again. All right. And every time Abraham runs this scheme, like he comes up on he comes up on a lick. Like for real, he starts doing well. Like God dang, people just be giving him stuff. Like this entrapment. This is all type of stuff going wrong here. But it's the way that this story closed that threw me. Because you know when I read this in my earlier days, you're reading it like this is just a night or two or three. You know what I'm saying? Just long enough to hit it and start itching type of thing, just long enough, hold on, something ain't right, and then figure out, okay, what does come from, and it's like, oh, this is her, and she got it from him, and they whole little crew got it, and now we all got it. Oh, they got to go, But this one is a little different because it's I told you, these writers, they like to overplay their hands. And this is the stuff that used to confuse me as a kid. Because you just told this story as if it's just something that's just kind of happening. Again, at the most, you're thinking, you're reading it, you think surely this is probably just something that happened within a day or two, maybe a week or two, maybe a month or two. You know what I'm saying? But you expect me to believe, in order for, based off of the last sentence, they would have had to been there for over a year. That's the only way the way this story closes out could have any type of viability, even for the story. I'm not even talking about just being true, just for the viability of the story itself, for the story to make sense, for the story to have any type of synchronicity. Otherwise, how do people know that they can't have babies if you're just there for a month? You know what I'm saying? So, in order for it to be confirmed that everybody's because that's how the Lord had completely closed all the wombs of the household. In order for them to be able to confirm that the wombs had been closed, there would have to be an extended period of time where nobody was popping out of any wombs. And I'm sure this wasn't a time when we were just having babies in weeks. So it would still take at least 9 months, for you to find out that, okay, it's been a long time since a baby's been born around here. You know what I'm saying? So I just thought it was odd. I thought it was odd. But then again, all of this was odd. And like I said, as a pastor and as a younger Christian, I was not a fan, of the Book of Genesis at all. At least not the early stories. But then even some of the later stories in the Book of Genesis, they're preach worthy, but they're still deplorable stories. But that's how the Bible is. The Bible is preach worthy, but it is filled with deplorable stories. And what I mean by preach worthy is, I mean, there's stuff you can pull out of the Bible and that you can make relevant and that you can actually make healthy. You can make people centric. You can make progressive, but it's still going to be surrounded by all of that dirty ass bathwater of deplorability. All right. So let's hit Genesis 21 and then we'll close it out. Then the Lord took note of Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had promised. So Sarah conceived and bore a son to Abraham in his old age at that time, at the appointed time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham named his son who was born to him, the son who Sarah bore to him, Isaac. Then Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God commanded him, because, that's important. And then Sarah said, God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears me will laugh with me. Interesting. And she said, who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would nurse children? Yet I have given birth to a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham held a feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. All right, very boring. Basically, Isaac's born. That's really the point there. Let's continue. Now Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, who she had borne to Abraham, mocking Isaac. So Ishmael is out there mocking Isaac, kids being kids, I guess. Therefore, she said to Abraham, drive out this slave woman and her son. For the son of this slave woman shall not be an heir with my son Isaac. Unfortunately, I know some people who behave like this today. But this is just an utter disregard, for Hagar's life and utter disregard for her child. And it's just another place where God does not intervene. When Lot's wife just turns her head backwards, she gets turned into a pillar of salt. When someone's actually, being mean to a human being, God is eerily silent. So the matter distressed Abraham greatly because of his son Ishmael, but God said to Abraham, do not be distressed because of the boy and your slave woman. Whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her, for through Isaac your descendant shall be named. And again, so right here, God is absolutely okay with the disregard. Yeah, absolutely okay with it. I feel like I missed something. Let me go back up. Nope, that's it. That's it. Okay. Uh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 And then whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her. For through Isaac, your descendant shall be named. So like, it's just horrible because God God goes ahead and says, like, hey, however Sarah want to treat her, let her do it. Let her mistreat this person. God in this moment in this scripture is condoning the mistreatment of a slave, is condoning the mistreatment of Abraham's own son. God is giving Abraham permission to abandon his own son. And and I can tell you, because sometimes we read this stuff when you say, okay, no one would ever do any of this, but see, that's just not true. You'd be amazed at what people will use to excuse their behavior. You know, um, this I've actually heard this mindset in many of churches. Especially in black churches, where the mindset is she came before they came, so the mother is supposed to be always ahead of the children, even if it's a stepmother. This is one of the reasons my father, who had, children, and apparently there's still children popping up over the place. He married a woman who did not want children. He felt that the best way to honor his marriage was to keep his children out of his life. That's the reality. And he felt, and it was a pastor, even though my father, and I tell people, I said, there's a lot of people who are Christians that are not saved. My father is one of those people. He was somebody, he definitely considers himself a Christian, but he does not live by the book. He will go to church sometimes, but he will not live by the book by any means necessary. I ain't gonna put all his business out here, but he ain't living by the book. I'm telling you. But he felt enough to abandon his kids because a pastor told him it was okay, and it was using such scriptural justification as this. Yeah, that's fun world. And of the son of the slave woman, I will make a nation also, because he's your descendant. So don't even worry about him. I'm gonna take care of him. And I do know a lot of black people do treat it like that. Well, I'm just gonna put him over in the hands of God. God will take care of him. I know black people say that children are a gift from the Lord, but then we'll also give that gift back. Like, that's so weird to me, because then you go to church and we're gonna dedicate them to the Lord. We're gonna give them to the Lord, and it's just like this might be why we got some parenting issues, is because no one is actually, I don't want to say no one, there are some great parents out there, but there are a lot of people who use this idea of God to not be parents. That's the best way I can say it, because there's a lot of people in my community who believe there is no right way to parent, who believe they literally believe there's no books on parenting. And I'm offended by that, because I actually wrote a book on parenting. It's called Parenting on Purpose. It's not one of my proudest books, though. I do want to rewrite that one. I'll let that one stay out, because I want the record to show my evolution on these things, and I don't want to run from that. But I do want to rewrite that book. So Abraham got up early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar, putting them on her shoulder, and gave her the boy and sent her away. And she departed and wandered about in the wilderness of Beersheba. He didn't even give her a carriage, bruh. Like, this is rough. When the water in the skin was used up, she left the boy under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him, about a bow shot away, for she said, "May I not see the boy die?" And she sat opposite him and raised her voice and wept. Now, this is the second time she's first time she ran away. This time she's been sent away. And then God heard the boy crying and said, what is wrong with you, Hagar? Do not fear, for God has heard the voice of where the boy is. Get up, lift up the boy, and hold him by the hand, for I will make a great nation of him. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. And God was with the boy, and he grew, and he lived in the wilderness and became an archer. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. And so again, this is, for me, when I see stories that kind of start going into useless details like this, it's kind of going back into, okay, there's some social rationale here, some justification here. And so for me, this is, again, just more information about the people group that they're going to attach to this Ishmael character. and giving an explanation that this people group that they're attaching to the Ishmael character has some type of correlation with Egypt, i.e., partnership through marriage, right? So let's see if we can close this one out. Abimelech comes back in the story. Now it came about at the time that Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, "God is with you in all that you do. So now swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me." Abraham said, "I swear it." But Abraham complained to Abimelech because of the well of water. And Abimelech said, "I do not know who has done this thing. You did not tell me, nor did I hear of it until today." So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and two of them and the two of them made a covenant. But Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Then Abimelech said to Abraham, "What do these 7 ewe lambs mean, which you have set by themselves?" He said, "You shall take these lambs from my hand, so that there may be a witness for me that I dug this well." And there he called that place Beersheba, because there the two of them took an oath. So they made a covenant at Beersheba, and Abimelech and they got up and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree at Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham resided in the land of the Philistines for many days. This was a very boring chapter. I don't know. Tell me if you disagree. You might have saw something in this particular chapter that I should have spent some more time on. But honestly, I think I almost fell asleep just by reading the last few verses, because I was like, nothing of interest is happening here, which I'm sure. And just to be fair, and this is why I've said these are not deep theological dives. If I was probably sitting here with some Hebrew scholars, some contemporary in that, they'd probably likely be able to pull all type of fascinating um, evidence out of this. But at this moment, I'm really just kind of ready to get to the good stuff, which I do know some more of that is coming up. For this to come after Sodom and Gomorrah, it's like, man, you give me a whole burning city, and then it's just people talking about digging wells for a while. But those wells do become important. Dang, wow. So that's a thought that just crossed my mind now. Is there is something in this that is vaguely interesting, and that is the introduction of the wells, WELLS, these introduction of the wells, because that means this society, what we've seen in the book of Genesis, is we're seeing a people go from, somewhat in the beginning, early iconic ignorance, ignorance is bliss type of thing, where life is just great, theoretically. The trees give you fruit, the birds bring you berries, all different types of things like that. And that early prehistoric, not prehistoric, I just kind of say early precognitive version of man, early precognitive version of our species, rather, where we're still very much like our primate cousins, just kind of living the life, and then somehow cognitive interaction with the world consciousness, or the evolution of our intelligence, we start crafting tools and start reshaping the world around of us, and we move into more agricultural environments. And so now I think what we're seeing in this is the introduction of irrigation. That's why you're seeing the wells here. I think there may be some fascinating things, because again, it cannot be understated that, at least in part, this story is trying to walk us through, in part, the evolution of humanity. And so that's definitely what I see here. You see these wells. So even though it's not a major part of the plot line, you do see that in the background of the story, this evolution of humanity, and how they're using things, how they're using the world around them, how they're getting more acclimated. In this sense, they're using they're digging wells, which maybe that's why they believe that in the early book of Genesis, when they said the water would come up from the face of the earth and water the ground, maybe that's why they thought the mist was coming up, because they later found wells. Dig wells, you find the water, and they say, oh, this is where the water's been coming from this whole time, right? So yeah, that is kind of interesting. There, I guess from an anthropological perspective, that has some value. But this whole back and forth, I did not like. I did not like a lot of the stories with the back and forth. So like even when we get to Jacob, when he starts dealing with Laban, that whole story, we're going to go through some back and forth, just like Abraham just did with Abimelech. Hey. And so we'll see if we can pull something out of that when we get there. But as of now, I think we've reached our natural stopping part. This natural stopping point. This was an excellent time. I am enjoying this so much, and again, I'm so glad that you all are kind of taking this journey with me. Right now, I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, make sure to like the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do that. Consider joining our Patreon or joining our YouTube membership community. And also, we are looking for volunteers. You can check out our community tab to get more information about that. Or you can go to our website, dldd.us, dldd.us. You can go there and you can get that information as well. And we have merch now. Check that out. So I wanted to make sure I had all of that. And then, of course, we're going to do this again in a few days. I think I've been trying to get into a cadence of cranking these out every 2 or 3 days. I think so that way I can actually participate in the premieres with everybody as well. And then, of course, we do have some more things coming up on the channel. We have a live patron party where I'm going to be bringing some of my patrons on, and we're going to do a live discussion. That's going to be fun. And then on Easter Sunday, oh my, Easter like used to be Super Bowl for me as a pastor, and so I want to do something on Easter. Call it habit, whatever. But we're having a very secular Easter Sunday, and I'm bringing some friends on with me. I'll tell you who they are, but not yet. But it's going to be a blast. And then that same day, I'll be on Skeptic Haven with Apostasy, and we have an awesome conversation coming up. Actually, this whole upcoming week is going to be super busy. So, man, stay connected. I'm going to be all over the place this week, and looking forward to meeting some new friends and growing our community. Now, of course, I do want to thank you all for joining me today, spending a little time with me, and kind of indulging me a little bit as I take my rants and just kind of share my thoughts. This has been absolutely amazing, and I hope that is helping you as much as it is helping me. And yeah, so I think that's all I got. I love you all, man. Until next time, keep rising, stay progressive, and stay beautiful. Holla at you.